now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you our keynote speaker, Colonel Alan West. Oh, stop. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Okay, I know it. You're awake now, okay? Thanks. Dr. Kurth, Chairman Fontenot, Speaker Cleckley, and Mrs. Cleckley, and Colonel Mattis, Steve, thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here with you in Southwest Louisiana, and I got to tell you something, I am absolutely freaking nervous. Because here I am in the heart of LSU, Bengal Tiger country, and I'm a University of Tennessee graduate. And not only that, I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm still an Atlanta Falcon fan, and I know y'all hate the dadgum Falcons. So why don't I just pack up and leave now? But it is truly great to be here with you to share some thoughts, perspectives, and insights. And if I can, what I'd like to do, Dr. Kurth and also Chairman, I'd like to speak for about 20, maybe 25 minutes, and I'd like to hear from you. So we can have maybe about 15 minutes of question and answer, because there are so many things that I'm quite sure are on your minds. But first of all, I want to recognize a certain group of young people that are here tonight. Because anytime I see this group of young people, it reminds me of where I came from. Because back in 1976, I wore the exact same type of uniform as a cadet in high school junior ROTC at Henry Grady in Atlanta, Georgia. So I'd like to recommend that we all pay homage and respect to these young men and women here in this high school junior ROTC program, because they are truly our future leaders. I want to talk to you tonight not so much about the presidents that are here, but I want to talk to you tonight about what enables Alan West, who was born in 1961 in the inner city of Atlanta, Georgia, to be standing before you today. Because I think that one of the big problems that we have with the Republican Party is that we don't know our history. We don't know who we are. And therefore, we are incapable of going out and spreading the message all across this great country that Rob Maness just talked about. And we are incapable of being able to articulate our history. And therefore, a lot of our history has been stolen away from us by the liberal progressives of the Democrat Party. First of all, let me be very clear. You all are the true liberals in the sense of John Locke. Conservatism is based upon classical liberalism, but somehow, some way, we allowed the other side to hijack that language. And so now when they speak of liberal, they truly aren't speaking about the freedom and the rights of the individual. They're truly not speaking about limiting the federal government and its intrusion and invasion into your lives. They're truly not speaking about the free market system and the free enterprise system. They're truly talking about a progressive socialism that talks about nationalized production, that talks about creating and expanding a welfare nanny state, that talks about the social utopianism that is based upon an egalitarianism that basically said, well, every kid gets a trophy. But most importantly, they talk about a secular state, which is totally contrary to who we are in the United States of America, because your inalienable rights do not come from man. They come from a creator. And as soon as the day comes that we have people that believe we can extract our Judeo-Christian faith heritage from this great nation, then we will find out who truly believes that they can be the grantor and the taker of your rights. And see, when you think about why this party, the Republican Party, was established in 1854, there was one singular reason, and that was to break the chains, the shackles of physical bondage. If you remember that movie, Lincoln, you saw this incredible confrontation, this ideological battle that continues on today between who we are, who we're supposed to be, people that believe in individual liberty and freedom and sovereignty, as opposed to those who don't believe in the individual. They more so believe in the enslavement of the individual to promote the collective. See, the Republican Party was established so a person like Alan West could stand here before you today so that I could run for the United States House of Representatives in South Florida and represent a district that included the highest per capita income zip code in the United States of America, and that's Palm Beach Island. Rush Limbaugh was my constituent. Ann Coulter was my constituent. But see, that was only possible because of who we are and what we believe in. See, when you recognize what you stood for as a Republican Party, with the 13th, the 14th, and 15th Amendments, when you understand, as you brought out, the first members on Capitol Hill were not from the Democrat Party. The first black members on Capitol Hill were from the Republican Party. As a matter of fact, the last black Republican member of Congress was Josiah T. Walls from the state of Florida. But the sad thing is that it took from 1875 to 2010 for the state of Florida to have its second black Republican member of Congress. It should not take that long if we understand who we are and the principles that we believe in, because every single person should want to believe in the simple ideal of liberty and freedom. And see, we don't tell people that after Reconstruction, when we lost the majority in the House and Senate, we don't tell people that a lot of the early civil rights legislation came from the Republican-controlled House and Senate and the Republican president in Washington, D.C. But what happened as soon as they lost that at the turn of the century? Then you got Jim Crow. We don't tell people that the reason why you had a Ku Klux Klan was not because of Republicans, it was because of Democrats. We don't tell people that segregation was not because of Republicans, it was because of Democrats. We don't tell people and go out and talk about the fact that the civil rights legislation of 1964 was passed not because of Democrats, because Al Gore Sr. and Robert Byrd stood against it, but it's because of Republicans, people like Senator Everett Dirksen, that stood and made sure that that promise was kept. See, we don't tell people about the real strength of Abraham Lincoln, who maybe at the beginning of the Civil War did not believe in championing slavery, but he understood that we had to right that wrong. He understood that a house divided cannot stand. He understood, as he articulated in the Gettysburg Address, that the words that were set forth by Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence, someone had to champion them, to say that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed with certain unalienable rights from their Creator. Of these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We stand for the pursuit of happiness. And here we are in the 50th year of the Great Society programs of a Democrat president, Lyndon Baines Johnson. And look at the results from the welfare nanny state. Look at the results from the war on poverty. You know, when Lyndon Johnson came out in 1965 and said, incredibly, that we will give a check to a young woman who has a child out of wedlock, and as long as she kept the man out of the house, she will continue to get a check from the federal government. The out-of-wedlock birth rate 50 years ago in the United States of America was 6%. Today, the out-of-wedlock birth rate for the United States of America is close to 42%. The out-of-wedlock birth rate in the Hispanic community is 58%. The out-of-wedlock birth rate in the black community, and this being Black History Month, should scare you, is 72%. That which was once the strength in the black community, mothers and fathers in homes, raising their children, has been totally decimated. But yet, we see a community that votes 99% of the time with the Democrat Party, who goes out and says they're the champion for the minority communities. See, we were created, this Republican Party in 1854, to break those physical chains of bondage. Today, we are called for one single purpose. That's to break the economic chains of bondage. See, I go back and I read the writings of Booker T. Washington. I call Booker T. Washington the father of black conservatism. Conservatism in the black community is not something that all of a sudden popped up. It has always been there. If you know the strength of the black community, it was faith. It was family. It was, as Booker T. Washington said, 3 points: education, entrepreneurship, and self-reliance. Those are not progressive socialist policies. Those are not principles and values that the progressive socialists of the Democrat Party hold dear. If they were then so caring about education, then someone explain to me why the first black president canceled the DC school voucher program for deserving minority children. But yet, his kids go to the exclusive Sidwell Friends. If they care so much about education, then why did the first black attorney general bring a lawsuit against the state of Louisiana for their school choice school voucher program? If they care so much about education, then why is it that the avowed socialist mayor of New York City said that he was going to go after the charter school programs in that city? And the highest performing school in New York City, Success Academy in Harlem. And why is it that this party, who should embrace choice and individual opportunity in education, did not link arms with single black mothers who went and complained to Governor Cuomo to say, we cannot allow our children to have their future taken away from them? When you talk about entrepreneurship, you see those people that come out on the weekends and they bring out the big 55-gallon drum and they slap those ribs or crawfish or whatever you guys like now. I just had some stuff called boudin. Hey, look, I'm from Georgia, okay? I don't speak Cajun very well, all right? But I tell you what is it? Boudin, okay, like who dat, okay. That was some good stuff. But the people that are out there doing that over the weekend, that's an entrepreneur. That's a small business owner. And we should be talking to them about how we can promote tax and regulatory policies that enable them to go from their front yard into that closed storefront that we know are there. Because every single person wants to be a part of the economic growth and the American dream that we have established here. Every single person wants to be a part of a pursuit of happiness. But if we're not careful, if we don't stand up and understand our history and what we believe in and who we were back in 1854 while we were set on this incredible journey, then people won't remember a pursuit of happiness. They will fall for a government guarantee of happiness. See, the difference between who you are sitting here tonight and the people on the other side of the aisle is what enables me to stand here is an equality of opportunity. An equality of opportunity that says no matter where you are born, no matter where you are coming from, in these great United States of America, with your own drive, with your own determination, with your own initiative, with your own investment, with your own ingenuity, with your own innovation, you can achieve whatever heights that you want. But see, some people would look at me coming out of the inner city of Atlanta, Georgia, and say, we can guarantee you just this. That, ladies and gentlemen, is not America, because instead of an equality of opportunity, that is an equality of outcomes. That's the simple message that we should be delivering all across this nation. It's a message that the GOP is not just a grand old party. It's the message that the GOP is about growth and not government growth. It's the message that the GOP is about opportunity. It's the message that the GOP is about the promise of the American dream and protecting that promise for every man, every woman, every child that comes through the front door, not the back door, to be a part of the greatest experiment in human liberty and freedom and democracy that the world has ever known. But that is challenged today. Because there was something that was said on Wednesday, November the 5th in 2014, after that incredible victory that you all helped to have here in the state of Louisiana. When someone stood up and said, I heard the voices of the 2/3 of the Americans that didn't vote. Now, I'm still trying to figure that one out. But what did that tell you? That tells you that someone in 1600 Pennsylvania does not respect nor regard the electoral system of this great nation and the voices of the American people. We have a problem here in our country. We must no longer fall for sound bites. We must no longer fall for identity politics that, as Rob says, and so many of you understand, tries to separate us based upon white and black, rich and poor, straight and gay, male versus female, because that is what collectives do. That is what the other side does. This great party that was established in 1854 to honor the words of Thomas Jefferson, to ensure that individual liberty reigns supreme, must take that message to every single aspect and corner of this country. And then and only then we'll be able to do that which has always defined us as Americans, to make sure that subsequent generations have something greater than the previous generation. Because I stand here because a father born in 1920 and a mother born in 1931. And if you understand being black and growing up in South Georgia in those times, it weren't fun. But you know what? My father fought in World War II for a country that didn't afford him all the rights and liberties that he should have had. My mother worked for a Marine Corps headquarters at a time when, well, she didn't have all the rights and freedoms that she should have. But they taught me through those examples that this is the greatest nation that the world has ever known. And where in the uniform of the United States of America, there is no greater, no higher honor. And they taught me about character and discipline. And they taught me about believing and loving this great constitutional republic. I want you to leave out of here tonight understanding that there is a battlefield that lies out there. But America has always risen to the occasion. And the only way that we will rise to the occasion is that we accept this challenge and that we understand. In the words of Benjamin Franklin on September the 17th, 1787, after the signing of the United States Constitution, when he was met by a Philadelphia socialite by the name of Mrs. Powell, and she asked him, well, doctor, what is it that we have? A republic or a monarchy? Franklin replied, a republic, if you can keep it. Keep this republic. Keep this incredible birthright that you have been given, that people like George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Ronald Reagan fought for, to pass on to us. Now, this is our call, so that these young people sitting here in that high school ROTC uniform may one day stand at this podium, being a retired officer, former congressman, because that's the greatness of America, that says that those kids have every opportunity for whatever greatness that they have within their hearts. God bless you. God bless the great state of Louisiana. God bless these great United States of America. And what are your questions? Okay, ladies first. Question is, what is the role of the Republican Party in addressing life issues? And I'll answer it very simply. The first of your inalienable rights is life. And that means life for the unborn as well. What is happening in the black community when it comes to abortion is genocidal. Since Roe v. Wade, almost 16 million black abortions have been done. I believe the numbers are close to 1,300 a day. That should not be happening. See, what we are seeing occur in the black community, inner city community, is the decimation of the family. And the family is the best anti-poverty vehicle in the world. But we don't have the policies emanating out of Washington, D.C. We don't have the policies that are promoting success for the family. We are penalizing people that have families, higher taxes, and what have you. So we're driving people away from that. We need to get back to those tax bonds. I'm a flat tax kind of guy. I don't know what you guys like, but I believe in a flat tax. But we need to inspire economic growth within the inner city. You know, it weren't Democrats that came up with this plan. It's called Urban Economic Empowerment Zones. That was Ronald Reagan's former economic advisor, Art Laffer, and former now deceased Congressman Jack Kemp. And it was a means by which you can get capital, money, back into the inner city so that young ladies aren't having to make these horrible decisions. But another thing that's so important, remember what I said? 72% out of wedlock births. We gotta get mommies and daddies back in the home. I got 2 daughters, 21 and 18. And my daughters don't have to go to anybody else to know that they're loved. That is such an important thing if we're going to once again develop that type of self-esteem and regard for these young black girls so they're not going out and making that horrible, tough decision. We have to be a champion on this, and anybody that says the Republican Party needs to abandon the life issue, they're horribly wrong. And I just hate to say that. And let me close by saying this. When they talk about women's reproductive health, all of us should embrace women's reproductive health. Cervical cancer, ovarian cancer, uterine cancers, fibroid tumors, breast cancers. But women's reproductive health does not mean murdering children. Thank you. Okay, the question is, what party did Martin Luther King Jr. belong to? Everyone knows it was a Republican Party, but guess what happened? When we stopped understanding our history and our legacy, we lost. Over one simple thing, you can go back and read. When Richard Nixon decided not to contact Coretta Scott King when Martin Luther King was in prison in Birmingham, and the word got out somehow that John F. Kennedy did, guess what happened in every single black home down south? You had 3 pictures. You had Jesus, you had Dr. King, and you had John F. Kennedy. And if y'all don't believe me, you can ask anybody here that grew up down. Those were the 3 pictures. We lost that legacy. Jackie Robinson was a Republican, and Jackie Robinson was going out advocating for the Republican Party. And when they did not, Richard Nixon did not listen to Jackie Robinson, who recommended him to contact Coretta Scott King. That's where we lost the connection to the black community. And if you don't understand the devious aspect of the other side, there's a quote from Lyndon Baines Johnson when he was on Air Force One that he said to some other governors about, if we get these blanks to vote for this, they'll be voting for us for 200 years. You can look it up and see exactly what he said. This is not about self-reliance, it's about dependence. We have to take our message back into every community. A couple more questions. How do we get back the youth of America? Right now, I mean, you talk to these teenage Republicans, you talk to any of the young people, they're understanding they've been sold a bad bill of goods. Nobody wants to grow up and go to college or what have you, and then come back to mommy and daddy's house where, you know, is my roof, is my rules. Okay, that's why they want to leave your house in the first place. But when they don't have the jobs and opportunities out there and they're forced to come back, now is the time when we need to have the conversation. Furthermore, be the adult in your home. When your children are bringing their friends over, you talk to them. People will know you by the company that you keep, and make sure your children are keeping company with the right type of folks. And you need to let their friends know that these are the rules by which, and the principles by which, and the values by which we live in this house. Let me tell you the problem that we have in the United States of America. Too many people are going to church on Sunday, and they're checking their principles and values at the door Monday through Saturday. That's got to change. And that means standing up and taking charge of your children as well. Our children know that the opportunities are not there. We need to start making sure that they vote for their future. Last question. The security issue and the global impact is very simple. Weakness is enticing. You know, last year in August, when the President of the United States of America stood up and said, let me make myself very clear, ISIS is not Islamic. Well, are they Presbyterian? Are they Mennonite? Are they Baptists? I mean, what are they? Because I'm really confused. I'm a simple guy from down south. Okay, when the first thing in the name of this group says Islamic, how are you going to tell me that they're not that? Well, guess what? When you show the fear to accept who the enemy says that they are, this is what you get. When you sit down on a stage and you whisper over, because you think it's an off-mic moment, tell Vladimir after re-election I'll have more flexibility. Well, guess what flexibility means? I took Ukraine, I took the Crimea, I'm going to take Ukraine, I'll take the Baltic states. That's the concern. We, ladies and gentlemen, in the re-election in 2012, sent a message to the rest of the world. that if you're a despot, dictator, theocrat, autocrat, if you're genuinely a bully and a bad guy, it's free reign for 4 years. And they know they got 2 more. Last January, ISIS, when it was called the JB team, was only at strength of about 300 fighters. Today, ISIS is close to 60,000 fighters, and they are in about 12 different nations. This is a very bad situation. And last week, this countering violent extremism, I don't know what you call it, this kumbaya moment, they don't care about jobs. They don't care about opportunity. And I don't give a dadgum about their grievances. You need to kill them. That's it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.